Hello everyone, welcome to today's session. And today's agenda is to cover functionalizing map, reduce generators and decorators. And also I'll just give a quick understanding on filter function. Let us get started and then start writing our examples in Python. And let me do one thing. I'll just go ahead and create a new file. Python file. Okay, I'm just going to give an example on. Let us revisit filter first. Filter example Python file. Okay, so here we go. So in the filter example, we'll use the same now to write list country names. So now country names equals to let's say I'm just giving India, US, UK, and let's say I'm just giving France. Okay, France. And then I'm just giving Australia or New Zealand. I can actually specify here New Zealand. Let's say yesterday we have gone through example. I mean, the previous session we have gone through example filter out the country names which is starting with you, and then today I want to print the country names, or filter the country names where the length is 2. Like it should print US, UK, and New Zealand. How do we do it? Let's say if I'm going to define a country name, always remember, guys, while dealing with filters, right? So the syntax of filters are, let me write the filter syntax here, right? So for a reference, so now filter, it will be filter is the function method, and then in the filter method we have to pass two things. One is the function name, what we are actually going to use, function name without parenthesis, and then we need to actually specify a sequence. That sequence could be the sequence could be a tuple, could be any sequence list or anything. Okay, so in this case we are going to use this sequence as a list. Okay, so now here I'm going to write my function which is going to get me the country names which is exactly 2 characters. Okay, so let me, I'm just writing my function get cn. Okay, and get cn will be taking one parameter, let's say for example that is country name. Okay, so now here I'm just going to give if length of cn exactly 2. The requirement is actually to check whether it is exactly 2. Then the filter function, like the function whatever we are actually going to use in the filter, it should return a boolean value, either true or false. If it is true, then return as true. True should be T capital. That is how we should actually specify. And then else, what we can do is we can return as false. Return as false. Okay, so some mistake here, you are in a spelling mistake, return false. Okay, so now that's it. So this is my the method which is going to check if you're giving cn. For example, well, let us don't use cn. I'm just going to give like this. Okay, print, let's say get cn up. I'm just giving India. India is not 2 characters, so what it is going to return is false. Now, if I'm running this program, here you can see the output is actually false here. Okay, so now if I'm giving here, I'm just giving US, and it should actually return us for true because it is exactly 2 characters. So now, how do we implement this on all the elements of the sequence? Okay, true and false, and then filter out the elements from this particular list or sequence, right? That is CNs. So now here we can say, let's say my country, my CNs, and then I'm just going to call the filter function. I can copy paste here, right? Filter function here, and filter function, and then in the function name, I can use the function name which is going to check whether the country name is 2 characters or not. Then sequence, our sequence is actually nothing but CNS. But this will be my CNS will be a filter object. Now print, if I type like now type of my CNS, this type of my CNS will be a filter object. Okay. So now here you can see this is a class filter. Then how do I get the list, right? So in this case, what you can do here is you can definitely cast it. Now if I cast it, then this is how I'm going to get the result. Here you can see it is giving us like US, UK, New Zealand, right? All two country names. Now, if I want to do the same thing without using this method, and I want to actually use, I want to use like my lambda function, right? How do I do it? So now here I'm just going to write another program, new Python file, and I'm just specifying here, right? Let me write, filter with lambda, filter with lambda. Okay, so now here we go. We really don't need this. We need a lambda function for the same thing. So how do I tell the lambda function here? Instead of get cn, I can say lambda, okay, and lambda what return x, and like x is okay. So in this case, if you are actually going to use like the lambda, then what we can actually do is we can define like true or false basically, right? So in true or false, how do we do true or false? How do we get like true or false? Let me see. Okay, now x squared length of x, length of x equals to 2. I think it should work. Let me see. And control shift of 10 if I do. Here it is actually doing the same thing. So what we have done here, we have done like run the lambda right now instead of the previously we are actually using this method like return true or false. Here with lambda we are not returning true or false. What we are actually returning is we are checking if the length of each object, let's say from CNC is actually sequence, right? Elements of this particular sequence one by one, right? It is going to first check India if the length is 2, then return. US if the length is 2, return. UK if the length is 2, return. France, the length is not 2, it is not going to return that. Like similarly with New Zealand. So here you can see we can actually use a filter function to do the same thing. So this is how the filter is actually working. So this is all about like filter. Whenever you are having a bigger sequence and then you want to apply the filter, these are the solutions, and these are very simple solutions to understand the concepts of filter. Now let me write another program. The next one is map. Map is the same way map is going to work, but only thing is map example. It is going to apply and the function on all the elements. The same thing, and we are going to write the syntax here like in a map. Okay, map function name, and then whatever the sequence, and then again the sequence is nothing but the same sequence. Let's say for example, it could be any sequence basically, iterator or a list or a tuple, right? No, anything. So now the sequence can be anything out of this, and we can also use, instead of function and custom function names, we can also use lambda functions too. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to apply going to use the same country names list. Okay, now I'm just going to take this one. What I'm going to do is I'm going to define a function which is going to return the reverse of this country names. Reverse of this country names, like India, it will be reverse. US, it will be SU. UK, it will be KU, like that. Okay. So now how do I do it? Now I'm just define let's say Reversian. Reversian is the country, and what it is going to take. It's definitely going to take a country name like as input, because we need the country name as actually input here, and then what we are going to do, it should return like the reverse of this. So if you are able to recollect how to get the like a reverse order of this particular string, let's say before I proceed further, I'm just going to tell you, let's say I'm having India, then if I specify colon colon minus one, right, of this particular string, then I can actually get the value in the reverse order. Now, if I'm giving here like return Cn of Cn of the reverse of that particular Cn, I can actually specify that like give me the reverse value of that particular Cn. So in that case, what I can definitely do is I can definitely specify colon colon minus one. Hope you remember all these things by now. We have started using this one, right? This is known as the reversing, right? Using slice operation, right? We can actually specify the slices, right? Colon colon, the start, end, and all these things. Okay. Or else, if you want to make it very simple and you want actually starting zero, you want only the first character of the country, then you can also do that. Okay. And you want, let's say, for example, first three characters of the country, then you can actually do that. Let's say colon colon minus one. I'm just specifying this. Let us see why it is flagging there. So maybe some spelling mistake somewhere. Yeah, typo here. So return CNF colon colon minus one. Okay, this is my reverse function. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to, let's say I'm just going to print the map of I'm just using the mapping, and in the mapping of what I'm just giving like map of reverse CN. I'm just calling this function. I mean, sorry, I'm just using this reverse CN function, and on a sequence. What is my sequence? My sequence is CNs. I'll just go ahead, apply the CNs. Let us see what it is going to return. Okay, and it is returning a map object. Okay, returning a map object. So now, whenever it is returning a map object and you want to actually convert it to a list, we can actually do that. Okay, using explicit list. Similarly, in filter, it was returning filter object. In map, it is going to return the map object. Now look at here, and this is how the map object is returning. This is how the map object is returning. Now, if your requirement is you want the first character and the last character of country names. If it is like two, it should be US, UK. But if France, it should be FE, and then for India, it will be IA. Then how do we do it? Let us do this way. Like I can actually define another method over here, right? And then I can say uh, get get Cn. Okay, get Cn is my function, and then it is taking the input as a country name, or you can actually use any variable name. And what you want is the first character. I can say give me 0 plus is a concatenation operator, then give me the last value, that is -1. Okay, return Cn, then Cn -1. Now if I go ahead, apply this filter on this particular list again, like I can give like get Cn, and here you can see it is going to return the first character and last character of all these country names, like EIA, US, UK. Because US, UK, and New Zealand, it is two characters. To see the difference, if you give like USA, then you can actually see the difference here. It will be giving us like UA, but where the country names which are like only two characters, then it is going to return me this one. Okay. Now, if your requirement got changed, okay, that's fine. But if the country name is two, then reverse it, or give the country in the length is actually 2, reverse it, and let's say for example US or UK, it will be KU, New Zealand, it will be JN. But if the country name is bigger than that, get the first character and last character. How do we do it? Now here I can specify if length of CN equals to 2, then we need the reverse, right? So I can definitely align it accordingly. Just give me a second. So here we go. We need the reverse of the Cn. So reverse of the Cn, I can specify Cn, of colon colon minus 1 colon colon minus 1, else we need the first character and the last character of the country, right? So now here we go. This is how we can actually do this. Let's say get modified cn. I'm just giving like no modified cn. I want to apply this modified cn on the country. Now how I can actually do that? I can take this code, so take this function name, copy it here, and look at here the output. Output will be what? For India, it will be IA. For UK, it will be KU. For New Zealand, it will be ZN. And then for France, it will be FE. Now, if I'm running this program, here you can see the difference. Here you can see IA, and USA, it is 3 characters, so it is giving first and last. UK, it is 2 characters, it is giving KU. France, it is giving the first and last character, and then this one. Okay, this kind of operation you can actually apply. Then the question will be, we can also do it using a loop. Why map is needed? Right, guys, map is faster than like another looping. So if you want to actually use map, then you can actually use this way. If you feel free, it's like feel free to use for loop if your list is very small, and then you really don't need like filter and map and all these things. But these are the concepts, and this is being implemented in real time projects, so it is good to know. Okay, so this is how the map function works, and then the filter function works. Okay, now the next one I'm just going to talk about is reduce function. Reduce function, let me write a function. Okay, I think we have missed one thing over here. We can actually do the same thing using the lambda too. Let's say, for example, we have given here like the country names, right? I want to do the same thing with a lambda, and I can directly go ahead do it here using a lambda list of map list, because it is going to give us a map object, and we can actually explicitly cast it to list, or like whenever you want to cast it to tuple. Those things you can do. Let's say, for example, I'm going to cast it as actually tuple. Then here, instead of the function name, I'm just giving here lambda, and what I want is like reverse of the country name. For example, I can specify for each element in the sequence, uh, get me the element in the reverse order colon colon minus 1. Okay, x colon colon minus 1. That's it. Now, if I do this, yeah, this is my first output. Okay, and to differentiate, I'm just going to give like print asterisk mark 50 times or 60 times, or however you want, like 40 times. Anything is fine. Now run it. Run the program. Here you can see the output. Now here you can see it is reversing, and this is how the lambda is working. Lambdas are actually powerful, and in the previous session we have gone through many examples of lambda. Okay, and then hope you are actually clear with the concepts. If not, please see that like my recorded session which is available in your channel. So that's fine, and then here we go. I'm just going to give you the next example on reduce. Okay, so now reduce function. For reduce function, so far we have never used any external libraries because packages, modules are yet to be covered. And then what are the real-time use cases of packages and modules? Like if you're already working in Python, you must be knowing some of the packages. And then if you are not familiar, then let me tell you here. Okay, now how do we use the function? Sorry, how do we import the functions? Reduce function, we are going to deal with like reduce, and reduce the syntax. I'm just giving like again the same thing, function name, then sequence. Okay, like in a map, if you look at filter, function name and then the sequence. Map, function name and then the sequence. Reduce, the function name and sequence. What reduce does is reduce will be reducing. Let's say for example, you are having a list of elements. You are having the list of elements, and but from the list you want to identify which one is the biggest number, or you want to actually do the entire sum of all the digits, or you want to identify let's say country names are actually there, and then what you need to do is you need to identify the country name, the smallest country name and the largest country name by characters basically. Let's say we are having some country names to like which are having only 2 characters, some country names which are having 20 characters. Okay, 20 or more than 20 characters. You want the country name by the length of the country name, the largest one and the smallest one. We can actually use the reduce function, and reduce function is actually used to get a final object from a particular list, okay, or a sequence. Or you can actually, when I'm talking about sequence, it could be anything. Okay, so now what the reduce function takes as input, the reduce function takes as input, like, for example, I'm having a list. One moment, let me copy this one, the same one, I'm just going to use it here in the reduce function too. Now look at here, India, US and UK, France and all. So whenever we are going to call the reduce function, I think I did it. No, I just copied map. So it is reduce actually, reduce, okay. So reduce function, what it is going to do? For the first time, it will be taking 2 elements. Apply the operations as per our need. Like if we want to actually compare the length, we can do that. If we want to do any other operations, we can also do it. Okay, so it will take the first time, it will be taking the first 2 elements and it will identify, let's say for example, in our case, the comparing the length. Right, right, in that case, what it is going to do, it is going to compare the length. Then in the next iteration, okay, it is a cumulative one. Okay, the next iteration, it will be the result of first two versus the third element. Okay, then again it will be doing a comparison and it will be getting the result, then result with France, then it will be doing a comparison of results with France, and whichever is actually larger or smaller based on our requirement, then it will be comparing with the last one. So the output of reduce is only one value. Reduce is going to reduce and then return as a final value. Okay, final value. Let's say for example, you have like the salaries of all the employees, or you want the population of all the countries in a list. You want to identify, like compare and identify. There are inbuilt functions available, like minimum, maximum and all, it is available. But if you want to actually use reduce instead of that, you can also do it. Okay, so these are like some of the use cases of reduce. And then whenever you are actually dealing with a large amount of data, it is always better to use reduce than using like mean and max. Okay, if large amount of uh, the elements are actually there, reduce will be faster than the other methods, like whatever we have, like based on my experience, and it could be like different based on your use cases and then various situations as well. Okay, so now let us go ahead, try to identify um, like how to use the reduce function here. Okay, try to implement how to use the reduce function here. So let me write a function. Let's say I want the country name which is having the maximum length. Okay, so now here it should be, the result should be France. Now how do I get it? Now here I'm just giving like, now let's say define max length of CN, or country with max length. Okay, sorry, country name with max length, alien max length, or anything you can actually specify. Okay, so now it will be taking 2 arguments. So definitely we can actually pass 2 arguments like country 1, country 2, C1, C2. Okay, or CN1, CN2, anything is fine. Now we need to actually check which one is the like larger one, I mean by the length basically, right? So now here I can specify if length of C1 is greater than length of C2, then in this case it should return C and C1, else it should return C2. That's all. And then we are done with this particular thing. Let's say, for example, if I'm directly calling, like without using reduce, I'm just calling like C and max length. Cn max length. I'm just directly calling the function. Hope you remember how to call the function. And then I'm just giving like an India and US as arguments directly. So it is going to return, right? We should actually explicitly print. So now I'm just giving print of Cn of this one and then running the program. While running the program, here you can see it is actually printing India. So now this is how it is going to work. Now this is not part of the reduce exercise over here. So now what we can actually do is we are going to implement the reduce function. Remember guys, reduce is not by default available. Okay, this is not part of the system functions, default system functions. You need to import fun tools. Import, then there is fun tools. Okay, fun tools, function tools. Okay, function tools. So in the function tools, we do have a method known as reduce, and then we can actually call the reduce and then see how it is actually working. Okay. So now let me directly write the program and then implement the fun tools and then see how it is going to work. Okay. So now here you can see I've disabled the print statement. I'm just going to print get me the country name. Like in this case, my expectation is now my requirement is it should return France because by length France is the country right now which is having maximum length. So now here I can specify fun tools or function tools, okay, and then a dot that's function tools. In the function tools dot reduce. And in the reduce, if you focus here, what it takes, right, documentation, it says reduce, then function, we can actually pass function name, iterables, right? So now here I'm just giving function name is country name, right? Just the country name. And then I'm just giving what is my sequence. I'm just giving my sequence is CNs. Now here, if I'm running this program, here you can see it is actually returning France. If your requirement is okay, that's fine. I want the country name, which is the smallest one. We do have three: US, UK, and New Zealand. And in this case, we'll see what is going to return and why it is going to return UK, not New Zealand, or not US. Let us try to understand that. Okay. So now let me define this function. Let's say instead of max length, I'm just giving the minimum length. Minimum length. So C1, C2, and then here if I'm going to write L1 equals L1 less than L2, then return length of C1 is less than length of C2, return C1, else return C2, and then instead of max function, Cn max function, we need to actually call Cn min function. Okay, minimum. That's it. Now, if I'm running this program, here you can see the result is New Zealand. Okay, the result is New Zealand. Let's say, for example, what has happened. Let us see. Now we have actually, let's say in this case, India and US comparison will be happening. It will return US. Then US and UK is it less? Let's say, for example, the length of US is actually two less than two. 2 less than 2 is false. So that means it is going to return UK. To understand, it is returning UK, I'm just putting a X here. So now if I'm saying here US and UK, it should actually return UK, right? Not US, because 2 less than 2 is false. So definitely the else part will be executed and country 2 will be actually, we are going to get the first thing, India US comparison, result is US. US UK comparison, 2 less than 2 is false, so UK will be the result. Now in this case we got UK. Now then UK versus France, again the UK is the result, and the UK versus New Zealand, in this case UK and New Zealand comparison. In this case, UK and New Zealand comparison, what is going to happen? 2 less than 2 case, then it will be returning New Zealand. Now, if I'm running this program, here you can see this is New Zealand. So this is how you can actually write the functions. Now think about, I want to do the min and max. Let us see whether it is possible or not possible. Let's say I'm just giving print minimum of CNs. like whether we can actually do this. Let us see here, like let us focus here in the minimum and go through the documentation. What it says, minimum is actually iterable, right? And we can actually get the minimum value. So now let us see the first output. I'm just giving here, let's say result. I'm just giving a result and minimum of this. Now, if I'm running this program and like looking at the output, now let us see here, like result is saying like France. Why result is saying France? Because I'm just getting for minimum one, right? So now how it is actually doing? It is alphabetically, right? Now it is searching for based on alphabets. It's not searching based on the length of the country. Okay. Now if I'm giving like now maximum of result, that is the maximum of CNs, if I'm running this program, here you can see it is alphabetic order, and here you can see like what is happening. The result is actually US, not UK, because US is bigger than UK, right? How? The ASCII values U and U same, S is higher than K, that's the reason the result is US. So this is how the maximum value, this is how the minimum value, but whenever your requirement is I want the minimum, I want the maximum, based on the length and all, this is the solution. So reduce is the solution, and you can actually implement reduce. But if you are dealing with only numbers, right, let me write another function. Let's say I'm just copy pasting this one and then writing another function on reduce. I'm sorry, another program on reduce. Now reduce example 2. Go ahead here, and then I could have actually deleted this because we don't need all these things. Okay, that's fine. So now I'm just taking this one, right, and then defining like your nums equals to, let's say 10, 20, 1, 2, 3, minus 11, 100 or 1909 or anything like 78. Now if I give print, okay, let me remove these sections because we cannot reuse it. I just copy pasted thinking like now we can reuse it, but we cannot. So now I'm just giving like no max value. Max value is I can specify here this the comma here like the max of nums. Okay, and minimum value, I'm just copy pasting the code. Minimum value here. Minimum value is min of nums. If I'm running this program, we can also get like what is the maximum value, what is the minimum value. Let us do it using reduce, but in case of numbers, reduce is really not required. You can actually directly use this like minimum maximum. It is based on case and case basis. Wherever reduce is needed, you can actually type in the reduce, right? Let's say I'm just giving define, let's say reduce exam reduce max, red max, and in the red max we'll be taking like uh, ideally just look at here. Whenever we are actually defining here, we are actually taking like two arguments, u and c2, right? Same thing we need to actually define here, that is 2. Let's say I'm just giving n1 and n2. And what we are going to get, if n1 greater than n2, then return n1, else return n2. That's it. Okay, n1 and n2, and we can compare and return here. Now I'm going to print it. Now print, let's say function tools dot reduce, function tools dot reduce. Then I can actually pass the method, right? What method I have? Like it is a reduce max, and then I can pass a sequence like nuns. Here we pass the sequence. Now it should actually return. It should do the same thing. Now here we go. If I'm running this program, it is returning 19009. Guys, remember that whenever you are dealing with this, sometimes you can directly use the methods as is. And in the previous example, we cannot actually do it directly because our requirement was length of each element, and based on that we are finding minimum and maximum, right? So in those cases, you definitely need like some custom functions. right? Either you can traverse the entire list and do it, or else you can actually use reduce, you can actually do that, okay? There are various ways actually available, but so far, like now these are things which are basics, and in the initial stages of Python programming, you may not deal with map, filter, reduce pretty often, but if you're actually going to maintain some scripts which are written by someone else, and map is implemented, reduce is implemented, right? Or filter is implemented, someone implemented all these methods, you will able to understand the script. So that is why we are actually learning this, okay? So that is done with like the reduce. Reduce also, we can also use lambda, like we have implemented the lambda in filter, lambda in map, and then lambda also we can apply on on this function too, reduce function too. Let me do that. Let me do that, and then I'm just going to write a new Python program, reduce with lambda example. Okay, so now here we go. This is the lambda reduce lambda example, and I'm just going to use the same thing. Only thing is, let me remove the unwanted sections from here, and I'll be just writing the lambda directly here, right? And then okay, so here what I'm going to return is I'm just going to write lambda function. If you are able to recollect, let's say for example, if you are writing a lambda like this, right? Control plus plus, and yesterday I'm just in the previous session basically lambda is just given like x colon, let's say x plus 10. What it is going to do, one argument, it is going to return x plus 10. Let's say I'm just giving like now y equals to lambda of this, and then I'm just printing like now print y of 20, y of 20, then it is going to return as 30. Y of 30, and then y of 30, because the argument here is actually 20, so x is value is 20, then 20 plus 10 is 30. Now, if I'm giving like the sum equals to lambda of, I need like two arguments. Now here I can specify x comma y is x plus y. Okay. Now if I'm calling the sum function or my sum function, anything is fine. Here I'm just calling the sum function and then followed by 10 comma 20. It is also going to return me 30. Here two arguments are there. Now, when we are actually going to use the lambda with reduce, we need two parameters. So now instead of cn.max, we need actually our lambda function. What lambda is going to do? Lambda is going to take two parameters, let's say cn1, cn2, c1, c2, whatever it is. Okay, let's say country 1, country 2. I'm just giving country 1, country 2. And what is our like result we are actually looking for? Result we are looking for is return c1, return c1. This is shorthand if length of c1, length of c1 greater than length of c2. That means it is going to return C1 if length of C1 is greater than length of C2, else return C2. That's it. Our work is done. And it is like if I'm going to take this one and convert it to a function, let's say this is our lambda, right? We do have a lambda like this. So if I'm going to convert this function, convert it to a if else, what I can actually do here is I think return C2, else C2, I'm just missing, so it is partially copied. So 1 minute, let me copy it completely and explain the notepad. So one moment, here we go. Okay, now if I want to actually break it down for the simplification, it should be in this way. If C1, length of C1 is greater than length of C2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 spaces, then I can say return C1. Yeah, C1 is small case c. Okay. Else, what we can actually do? Else, 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces I'm going to use. Return C2. Return C2. You do this way, which is same as doing this way too. Okay, lambda we can actually do this. Lambda if you're using, this is how we can actually define. So now if I'm running this program, I'm definitely going to get the result as trans. Okay, and here we go. I'm just going to get the result as trans. If your requirement is okay, fine, I need the country name with 2 characters in this case, like US, UK, and France, New Zealand, everything is there. Let us do like now the country name, which is having less size. The comparison will be happening from the first element till the last element. Then the result we are actually going to get. Okay. Now, if I'm going to run this program, the last program will be like New Zealand. Okay. So it is actually returning New Zealand, and this is going to return France. So this is how we can actually use function tools, then reduce. Right. Reduce is defined in the function tools. But if you are not giving anything, let's say for example, you are not importing it, and then running the program. Let us see like now what is going to happen. It is saying like name function tools is not defined. What if I'm not giving like function tools and just giving like reduce here, and then sorry, I'm just like directly using reduce here. Let us see like what's going to happen here. Control Shift F10. Here you can see the reduce is not defined. That means reduce is not a method which is by default available. You need to explicitly import before you use it. Let me like revert it back to change, revert the changes, and then here you can see like France and New Zealand. So these are the takeaways of like map, filter, and reduce. Now the next one I'm just going to tell you is the concept is known as generators. Now Python file generator. Okay, example Python file. What are the generators? Let's say, for example, I'm having like printing like this for I in range of 10. Hope you remember range function, and then print I. It is going to print 1 to 10. If I'm giving like the end as a space, here you can see not 1 to 10, it is going to print like 0 to 9. Now if I'm running this program, here you can see 0 to 9, right? So if I'm going to do something like this, like instead of having this one, I'm just giving like let's say nums equals to range of 10. Now nums, print nums. Now if I'm running this program, here it is saying range 0 to 10. It is nothing is there. If I say like what is the type of this? What is the type of this nums? Like get me the type of this nums, like control shift F10. If I do this, it is saying it is a range type. It is a range. But if I want my custom range to be printed using generators, let's say, for example, here the range is numbers. I want to store all the containers. Let's say define, here I'm just defining my country name generator. Okay, it's going to generate the country names. I'm just giving yield of what? I'm just giving yield India. Okay. Now yield, I'm just saying like the yield New Zealand, and yield, I'm just giving Australia. Then yield, just giving here maybe something like France. Okay, done. Now here what I'm going to do, I'm just giving like CNs equals to my CN generation. Okay, generator. Now if I check print type of CNs, I'm just giving like the print type of CNs. It is what it is going to return. It is going to return class generator. Guys, remember this generator is a type. This is a class generator. Okay. Now let's say I want to iterate the my cn generator function. Let's say for cn in cns, and I want like print Cn. Now, if I'm running this program, let us see what it is going to return. Now here you can see it is returning India, New Zealand, Australia, France, right? Everything. But if I want to do it differently, like now I don't want this third variable and all, and then I want to do it differently. Now how do I do it? Now Python file, I am just giving like generator, then example 2 Python file here, and then I'm just giving like I really don't need this directly. I'm just calling like how we are actually using range. Similarly, we can actually call our generator my my cn generator. Okay, like we are calling range with some country names. Now here we are actually calling my generator. Now here if I'm running this program, here is also we are actually going to get the something India, New Zealand, Australia, and France. Right. So this is how the generation is actually working. Now there is one more way, like we can actually also deal with generators. Generators. Let me give you another example. Let's say generator EX3, example 3. Now here we go, right? And let's say I have something like this. Okay, Cn equals to my generator. Okay. Now print. I'm just saying like Cn's, print Cn's, and let us see what it is going to print. It is going to print like generator object. It cannot print anything else. It is going to print generator object. But there is another way. Let's say, for example, if I'm giving next of Cn's, like what is the next of Cn's we are going to get? Next of Cn's. This is going to give us the first element, that is India, only India. Like if I'm running this program, here you can see like only India. Let's say you want next of Cn's 2 times, or like you can actually print next of Cn's, next of Cn's. Here you can see India and New Zealand. India and New Zealand. If I'm giving like next of Cn's, comma next of Cn's, okay, print is not required because we are having one print, that is more than enough. Now, if I'm running this program, here you can see India, New Zealand, Australia, and France. Now, all are over. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to call the next Cn's here. It will be error because there is nothing left. India, New Zealand, Australia, France, like we are having 4 next. Then if I'm running this program, definitely we are going to get error. What is that error? Now you will be getting stop iteration error. Okay, so this is stop iteration error, stop iteration. It is saying trace back, and this is the stop iteration error. So now here the iteration has been stopped because we do not have any elements in the generator. Okay, so this is how we can actually deal with generators. Generators are actually powerful. Generators, this is the simple example of generator, and let me show you something. I think in the session I was exploring some options today. I'll just like not show you. That's very simple one. Okay, let's say I'm having a very big list here, and hope you remember the list comprehension. The list comprehension is like if I'm giving like my list X for list in range of 1 to 10. Let me tell you this. Okay, let 200 to 12. Then you can see my list here. Now if I'm giving here generator, also you can actually see it here. Let's say for example, if I'm running this program, right? Let us see what is the result. Here you can see 0, 1, 0 and 0, 1, 2 because we are printing only list element 0. What if my list is very big? Okay, and then same number I'm just using it here. Same number I'm just using it here. Okay, let me take it out. Let me take out this code and then we'll run it and then come back here. If I'm running it, the system will not able to accommodate it. Now look at here. There is no output. At some point of time, we are going to get memory error because system is trying to store, and then my system capacity is actually 16 GB RAM. And as long as system is able to allocate it, system will keep on keep on storing the values from the range, right? And in this particular collection, this collection is nothing but a list. And then at some point of time, it is going to fail. We are not going to get the result. To execute the second line here, like the print statement, the first line should be completed first. Okay, that is the list will be populated first. Then, if we are having enough resources, enough memory, and everything, then only we can actually process. Think about you are going to store the names of the people in this world. And if you are actually using this approach, then gone case, the program is not going to actually get executed. Now, in this case also it is not executing in Python. We can actually stop it. Here I'm just going to stop it. It is not going to stop at the first attempt. It is going to give a like an error again. Like here you can actually stop the session. I'm just stopping it again. Now process finished with exit code -1. Okay, this was not complete. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to let me comment out the first lines. Okay, first two lines, and let me leave it like this. And here is the second one. We have the same situation here, but generators, what it is going to do is it will generate when it is needed. It's not, it will be yielding it right now, it will be storing it, right? Whenever needed, it is going to give us the values one by one. But it is not going to generate at the very beginning and store it and give us the result. It does the same thing. But in this case, the generators are faster. Let's say if I'm running this program, here you can see it is giving 0, 1, 2. If I'm giving like another few statements here, or I can actually write a for loop. Okay, let's say for uh, for I in let's say range of. I'm just generating the values from the one range of 100. I'm just giving 100 values. Okay, now here what I'm giving is print next of MyGen. Okay, so and then I can actually use a in like on the separator line separator as space. If I'm running this program, here you can see it is giving right now 0 to then 99 basically. It is fetching all the values. Generators are actually much faster, and while dealing with large amount of data, we can actually use generators. There are real-time use cases when data or volume of data is actually high, or dealing with large objects. Prefer to use generators. Okay, don't use this. Okay. Now here, if I'm giving like print, what is the type of this? It looks like a tuple, but it's not a tuple. It is a generator object. If I'm specifying print type of MyGen, here you can see type of MyGen is actually class generators. Okay, so these are the use cases of generator. Now the last topic for the day is decorators, and that is the last topic for the day. Guys, give me the last topic for the today is like decorators. What is decorators? Let us understand first. Let's say we have defined like n number of methods. Okay, n number of methods in a particular program. Let me close out everything and write a new method, a new function, so the new program and Python file. I'm just giving decorator example Python file. Now, let's say I'm having a define like let's say I'm just giving a start function, and in the start function, what we have something like now some actions we can actually define. Let's say for example, I'm just giving here print. This is my start function. And this is demo actually basically. Okay, and then we do have it defined. I do have a stop function, and then this is my stop function. Okay, now the question is if I'm having a stop function and start function, right? And similarly, I have like many other functions. I want to actually add some changes. Like before each function, I want to actually make some functionality changes. Let's say, for example, if I'm calling start here, if I'm calling stop here, calling start here, calling stop here. Now run this program, and here you can say like no start function and stop function. Let's say my requirement is I want to add some functionality on top of this functions without changing the function definition. Try to understand. I want to add some functionality on top of this existing functions without changing the function definition. How do we do it? That is the concept of decorator. Decorator, what it is going to do is it is going to decorate existing functions, and there is a concept of decorator and decorator chaining. Okay, so before we understand that decorator and decorator chaining, few things we should actually understand, like functions. What are the functions? Like this is one of the object types like now available in Python. You can store the function in a variable. For example, if I'm having start and stop function here, right? So now I can actually say this is my s equal to start, s equal to start function, and if I call like just as, and let us see like what it is going to return. Now if I'm running this program, control shift F10, and here you can see it is saying like this is my start function. Just look at here. So now in the functions we can actually store into a variable like function name. It is in variable like we have defined here. Now if we are actually having something like this, let's say for example s equal to start, and I'm just giving here right now running the program, control shift F10 will be like control shift F10. If I'm running it, you will not get anything because we need to call the function control shift F10. Okay, now this is my start function. Now if I'm calling like now start function, calling the start function, now control shift F10. Okay, now it is also giving like my start function. Now if I'm giving let's say for example like not deleting, I'm just deleting start function. Now let us see if I'm calling the start function after deleting, what is going to happen here. Now control shift F10. Here you see it is saying like no name error, the start is not defined. But in this case, S was actually pointing to start, and we were able to call S, and then start was also working. We have deleted start. Now here you can see when we're actually calling the start function, right? It is saying like name error because we have deleted it. Let us do one thing after deleting. Let me call if S function is actually working. Definitely it should work. Okay, because it's an alias. Guys, remember this is known as function alias. Function alias. This alias to function, even after deleting, even after delete, this should work. Okay, this should work. Now, if I'm giving like now, let's say for example the difference. Let's say I'm having a start function. I'm having it like now line like this. Let me write it down. Let me write it down here. Let's say I'm having a start function, or I'm just calling like s equal to start, y equal to start, s equal to start, y equal to start. In this case, this is a function call. This is a function call. We are calling this function. Whatever this function is going to return, this value will be stored in the variable y. Okay. Now, in this case, it's just a function alias. Function alias. Okay. Function alias, it is just like cloning. Whatever the definitions is there, it will clone, and it will store it in the new definition. Whatever new alias we are actually using, it will be getting stored here. Even if we are actually deleting start, S is actually going to stay. So this is exactly what has happened here. So this is one thing like now what we can do. We can do an aliasing. We can actually assign the function to a variable. We can pass function as parameter to another function too. Function as parameter to another function. We have gone through example in the previous sessions. We can pass the function as parameter to another function. Okay, so that is the reason like we call functions are actually first class objects. So if you are actually hearing anywhere in the interview panel or anywhere, why we call functions are actually first class object? Because functions we can assign to the variables. Functions we can pass as parameter to another function. Function we can also return it from a particular function. Let's say I've defined a function, I want to return the function itself. Those things we can also do it. Okay, those things we can actually do it. Let's say for example, I want to actually tell you something here. Let me write a program, write a new program, just give me a minute. Write new Python file. Okay, and in the new Python file I'm just going to write let's say this is actually related to the decorators, but not decorators. We have not yet implemented the decorators, but the concepts. To understand the concept first, let us understand the concept first, and then we can actually go ahead understand the decorator concept better. Okay, now here I'm just giving decorators example 2, but it's not decorators. We are not going to write decorators here. I'm just defining a function. Let's say define my function, and which will be taking a function as parameter, for example. Okay, defining a function, and here what we are actually going to do, we are going to, let's say, my function I'm just defining, I'm just passing some arguments here. I can specify arguments or value or anything like this. Okay, and then return, just giving a return value dot, let's say, uppercase. So whatever value we are actually passing, it will be actually returning value dot upper. And what we are actually missing, why it is Z, because colon is missing here. Okay, that is the function definition. Now, if I go ahead, tell something like this. Let's say, okay, let us go ahead. First write the very simple one, then we can actually say like how it is going to work. Let's say print. I'm just giving here. I'm just giving a my function of, and just giving here like maybe some message, world is open source, world is open source. Okay, so now what it is going to do, it is actually going to return, as world is open source. Okay, now what if the earliest thing we have done in the previous example? So let me tell like another one. Let's say my function 2 equals to my function 1. Okay, so here I'm just giving my function, it is not my function 1, it is my function. Okay, that's it, my function. Now if I'm giving, instead of my function, if I'm giving like my function 2, giving hello world, it is also going to do the same thing, hello world. This is like function aliasing. I have covered this one actually in the previous session. My fun2, I think I'm just missing. It says near defined, that means name error. So, okay, C is here, function 2. Okay, now here we go. So it is saying like hello world. So this is how it is going to work. Now the next thing is, how do I call a function? Like how do I pass function as a parameter, right? This is what we have already covered, already gone through. Let me put it in sessions. In case I need this, I'll just come back and then take it. Now in the same function, the same program, I'm just going to write another method. Let's say, for example, I'm just giving like this, and I'll be changing it right now. Let's say I'm just giving your value dot upper, right? Return value dot upper, and then here I'm just going to give my function 2. I'm just defining my function 2, which is demo 1, demo 2. I can give. What happened? Got deleted somewhere. Okay, one moment. Okay, this is like let's say I'm just giving demo 1, and I'm just having demo 2 function here also. Demo 2 function, and I'm having demo 2, which is going to return the value as, let's say, for example, lower value, or I can say like capitalize. anything. We can actually give anything over here. Okay, so now two functions. One is demo1, which is going to return the capital case, and then second one is going to return as capitalize. Okay, so or else, to make it very simple, we can also call it as actually maybe something like now return val or like now lower case. That is also fine. Okay, so now that's all done. Now I want to pass function as parameter. Let's say if I'm giving, let's say this is like a demo, define demo. In the demo, we need to actually pass the function as parameter. Let's say my function, I'm just giving my function. What are the function I'm just going to give to this demo function as argument? That function is actually going to be executed. Okay, so now in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to call the function. Let's say, for example, message equals to I'll be like, calling the function. Let's my function of what I'm just calling like now. Let's say any message I can specify. Let's say world is open source. World is open source. Okay. Now think. We are having a demo1, which is going to return uppercase. We are having demo2, which is going to return lowercase, right? And here we are actually giving my function. So now how we are actually going to invoke this? How we are going to invoke this? Like before we do this, we are going to print the message to here, right? Message to here. Now let us call the demo. I'm just calling demo, and in the demo, what I'm going to do, let's say I want to actually invoke demo1. Just give demo1, that's it. Simple. Like what it is going to return, let me explain you, okay? We have these two, there is no need to explain. It will be returning, like we are going to pass some value, and it is going to return the uppercase. In the second case, we are passing the value, it will be returning lowercase. Then demo is the final function what we have defined, and it will be taking on function as parameter. The same function we are passing a message, so this will be like reference as value here. If you are calling, in case of function name is demo1, it will be returning uppercase. In case of function name is actually demo2, it will be returning lowercase. Now let us see here, demo1 and demo2. And to understand it better, I'm just putting like now is capital case. Now if I'm running this program, here you can see the first case we are actually getting like now all in capital case. The second case we are getting all in small case. So this is like, that is the reason why we call like now functions are actually first class objects. Okay, first class objects. And here like we are actually getting the we are actually getting the uppercase of world is open source and lowercase of world is open source based on what parameter we are actually passing. Okay, so that's how it works. So now let me write one more function and tell you like how the decorators are actually going to work. So these are the concepts which are needed to understand the decorators well. Hope you understood the concepts. Let me write the final one. That is like where we are going to understand the decorator function. Let's say decorator and example 3. These are not decorators. I'm just going to write the decorator function here. Okay, so now let's say I'm just defining a decorator function. I'm just giving here like define my decorator or anything, my DEC as like my decorator function. And in the my decorator function, definitely we need to pass function as parameter. Let's say I'm just giving my function or anything you can actually specify, my function name, anything you can actually specify. It's some variable name like my function, my decorator, my function. So decorators, what it is going to do? Existing function, if you want to actually extend it, if you want to modify some functionality, like before executing that function, we can actually control it. Let's say, for example, I've defined a function start. Before starting the function, I want to check if the processes are actually down or not. Only then we are going to start it. So we can actually have a decorator on top of it instead of like changing the existing logic of that particular start function. That is why we are actually going to run decorators here. Okay, let's say you are actually processing, let's say, processing payment to the customers. Okay, and before processing the payment to the customer, like there is a already function which is defined which does the payment processing. Now you want to ensure that function should not fail, the payment should not fail. You want to check if the payment gateway is actually up. You can define a decorator function. Let's say my payment gateway of, let's say that my, let's say for example, define check payment gateway up. If payment gateway is actually up, then call the next function. So it is like you are calling the function, and in case of a decorator, you are modifying or extending the functionality without modifying the body of the existing function. So let's say in this case, I'm defining my function, which is a decorator, and which will be taking, sorry, my decorator is a function which will be taking like my function, that's a function as parameter, and then we can actually define a worker. Like here we need to have a worker function. It could be any name. You can call it as worker, you can call it as handler, you can call it as my business logic, anything you can actually call it as. Okay, now here I'm just giving like let's say for example handler or worker. I can say this is a worker function. In the worker function, what we can actually define here is we can actually define, let's say anything you want to do. Let's say print before, okay, one moment, before the function execution. Like this is what we are actually adding. Then we are calling the function like my function here. Now think about like my function here. Okay, we are calling, and then after my function call, what we can do here is we can definitely print like after a print after the function execution. Let's say this is the decorator what I have given here, like the very simple one I've just given here. Like now this is after the function execution. This is the very basics of like decorator, and decorators are complex topic, and it will take days to understand the initial stages. So I'm just trying my best like to make you familiar with the decorator, the primary concepts of the basic concepts of decorator. Now here, what I'm going to do is function is called, whatever the function I'm just passing as parameter, that same function will be called. Before some statement will be executed, after some statement will be also executed. Now, how do I return? How do I return to the main function? I can actually call it as, let's say return then worker. Whatever the function we are actually, the worker function we are actually calling, return the worker. Okay, so now we are actually going to return the worker function here. Now done. I'm just calling like start. Start is a method, and I'm just defining it, defining start, and here I'm just defining like print. I'm just giving here code to start the app is here. So far we did not actually know the system libraries and all, like how to execute the processes, how to execute the command and all these things. So let me make it very simple. Define start. Start is the function. Now if I am calling start, if I am calling the start, now it is going to work like code to start the app is here. Now I want to check if my processes are actually up, like here it is the print statement, right? Now this is my decorator function what I have defined. I've never called this. Now my requirement is I want to call this function. How do I call it, right? So here what I can do, you can see, let's say at the rate my decorator, like this is your decorator. Just before the function call, you can actually have my decorator. Now similarly I have here define stop function. stop function. Here I am having also my decorator. My decorator. Okay, here I am having my decorator. Now let us see. I have not defined after the function execution, before the function execution. No, here I've just mentioned anything. I'm just calling start function. Let us see like now what will be the output right now. Now here the output is, here's the output like now before the function execution, code to start the app is here, after the function execution. Now if I want to call stop here, okay, call stop here. If I'm running this program, here you can see, before this function execution, code to start the application is here. I think it should be stop. Okay, so now this is a typo. So now here you can see code to stop the application is here. So this is being decorated. How it is being decorated? Using our decorator function. Like we have certain business logic here, we are not modifying anything. We are just like this is a wrapper function actually on top of the existing functions. If you want to do like real-time examples, I can tell you. Let's say you want to identify how much time it is actually taking, right? The function one is taking, how much time function two is taking. You are defining another function here, like okay, track the time execution of these functions. You can define that and then you can actually identify how much time it is taking. We can also, let's say for example, another thing which we can do, let's say print, okay, and underscore then name, underscore name, okay. If I give like underscore name, let us see what you are getting. The output underscore name, it is saying it is the main program. If it is main program, it is giving like name. But if it is within the function, let's say which function is getting called, I want to actually understand here, like which function is getting called. Here we go. I'm just giving like print executing which function. I can give like my function dot underscore name. Okay, at my function dot name. Let us see like what it is going to give us. Like we are calling stop function, we are calling start function, and here we are actually giving like my function dot name. Let us see what it is going to give us. Now here it is. Here you can see executing the outside. It is main executing the start function before the execution. Code to start the after the execution. Then executing the stop program before the execution and before the start and after the start, right? So this is how you can actually use decorators. And guys, as I told, decorators is a complex topic and this is part of advanced Python. Okay, and these are the basics because you should know like how the decorators are actually working. This is the last and final example. I'll just make small changes over here. That's it. Okay, and then we'll be done for the day. Now let's say for example I am having like now which function is getting executed. I want to know like import time. I have told about like function tools. Now time, I'm just telling like what time this function has been started. Like I can see here like a print function start time, function start time is time dot time. Okay, so it will like give us like whatever time the function has been started. Now function end time is time to time. Now I have not modified anything to my start and stop. There's a requirement, existing logic is there. I want to log something like what time it is started, what time it is ended, what is the duration. I want to execute some statements here. I want to have some logic over here, right? Those things I can actually control it within this execution. Like if I'm running this program, here you can see, okay, I did not actually function tools, start time, end time, why it is not printing. Let me run the program, Control Shift F10. Yeah, I did not execute it, so that's the reason it did not execute. Now, here you can see it is actually tracking some time over here, so don't worry about it. This is like no start time and stop time, but we can convert it to hours, minute, or like a timestamp and all these things. It is all possible, but look at here, like now this will be like now if you are using time to time, this is the default format how it is going to return. So don't worry about it. Like now, what is this? We can convert it and then showcase. Okay, let's say time dot now, like time dot today or whatever, like no time dot now or whatever the functions are actually available. We can actually see here time dot. Let's say there are many things like time dot clock, like what is clock is going to do. Okay, clock. It is going to display the clock. Okay, that's fine. So not required actually for now time to time. And I'll just tell you in the modules, basically modules and packages will go over the system libraries and we can identify it. Okay, so now if you want to find the differences between these two times, track it in start time, track it in end time, then minus it and then say like this function has taken so and so seconds to get executed. So these are the things what we can actually do using decorators. So this is a very complex topic. I tried my best to make it as simple as I can and given it. Like whenever you are actually having parameters to the function, in that case, we have to specify the parameter. The parameter is what? Like if it is arbitrary arguments, we can specify args. If it is arbitrary keyword arguments, I can say like in a key args. Okay, so this is how we can actually define arguments, and then same thing we need to pass it here. Even if I'm executing this program, it is going to execute. We are not passing anything start and stop here, right? So now if I'm running here, if I'm running this program, it should actually run as is, so without any hiccups, like it should run as is because I have enabled it with any arguments. Either it is arbitrary arguments, arbitrary keyword arguments, or whatever, this function is actually going to start. Okay, now if I'm calling, let's say for example I'm just calling here start, and then here I want to kill pass some arguments. Those things will be like now passed it over here, so like it will be getting executed accordingly. So this is how it is going to execute in real time. So that's all about decorators, and with this we are actually done with all the topics related to functions. Function aliasing, map functions, reduce functions, generators, and decorators. So we are done for the day.